In this video, I show you how to get Cursed Fire, Bolt, and Arcane Abyssal Blood Gems. These Blood Gems are dropped by Depth 5 Cursed FRC Chalice Dungeons. You can find these bosses primarily in Loran and Is Gravestone, but they also appear in the Thumaru Chalice. And these bosses will drop rank 20 Elemental Gems, specifically the Cursed kinds. Are these gems the best elemental gems that you can get? The answer to that question is complicated, but in a lot of cases they can be better than the 27.2 elemental gems that you get from the Watchers, so I thought I'd make a video on it. In this Chalice dungeon, you might be familiar with it. It's primarily used to farm that one Bone Ash Hunter I just killed, because that Bone Ash Hunter drops a lot of good gems for specific builds. So a lot of people just use this one gem, or excuse me, this one dungeon to farm for very specific gems. But I'm going to run the whole dungeon here because the final boss in this Chalice dungeon is the Watchdog of the Old Lords. And when that boss appears in layer 3 or layer 4, it has a possibility of dropping the Cursed Fire Abyssal Blood Gem. So the Cursed Fire Abyssal Blood Gem comes at, the best one by the way, comes at 24.8% increased fire attack. So if you're an arcane build and you want a weapon that does fire damage, it would be a pretty good idea to pick one of those up. Now 24.8% is not as much as 27.2% that you can get from the Watchers. But the Watchdog boss will come with a secondary effect, and sometimes that secondary effect that it comes with is better than that 2.4% that you lost. Sometimes. Again, it's not always about AR, but sometimes. But if you're someone that really wants AR, like the most AR, then sometimes the 27.2 is better. But that secondary effect can be really good. So, for example, you might get plus 5% attack against beasts. So you can do the math. That's about 24.8% plus 5%. That's almost 30%. That would behave almost similar to 30% fire damage against beasts. Some other secondary effects that are pretty good, like attack kin up, attack up at full HP. All those are really good. The flat plus 15 fire that you can get, sometimes that will outperform, I should say, the 27.2, but it depends upon the weapon that you're using and how much arcane scaling that you have. And what I mean by that is, what is your arcane level? If you have really high arcane levels, then the 27.2 may be better. So the first boss you can see here is Bloodstar Beast. He's giving me some trouble here because I don't normally use the Amygdalin Arm against him, and I think I got off to a rough start. And when you get off to a rough start, sometimes it's hard to recover. But yeah, my strategy for him is to throw those blood cocktails. It distracts him pretty easily. Allows you to get some good backstabs. A serrated weapon is ideal for this type of situation. But I like the Amygdalin Arm, so I decided to use it. So after you go through the first layer, you can just see where my character is going. Go to the second layer, and I believe the second lever is off to the side here. It's in this like cave with a ton of enemies in there, a ton of beasts. It's kind of this dungeon isn't, I wouldn't say it's the easiest. I also wouldn't say it's the hardest, but it's hard enough to the point where it's kind of considered annoying. So I should probably mention that I don't think that this Chalice dungeon is save edited. I'm pretty sure it's not. So that secondary effect that you get may not be, guaranteed to be good, is what I'm trying to say. And you're allowed to define what good is. But for me, good is anything that increases damage. And I believe the secondary effect can give you other things like increased rally potential, add rapid poison, stuff like that, that I don't really mess with. So you can see here I down a blue elixir so that I'm hidden, so enemies are less aggressive to me. Still got to look out for fireballs to the back. The second boss, I believe, on this dungeon is the Undead Giant. Specifically the one with the, I think, the large infected hand that smashes the ground. And if I remember correctly, I died to this boss in this round. I got frustrated, so I used the Holy Moonlight Sword. Anything that does thrust damage against these guys is probably the weapon that you want to use. Even that foot damage is insane. You can see how much damage it did to me. The runes I'm using on this character are the plus 5 and 10% health, and then the extra all defense. So that's the 5%. It's the Great Lake rune that increases defense, although it didn't help me there. But you'll be surprised at just how much you'll be able to tank with those runes on. And I don't really play very carefully, as you can see from a lot of my videos. So I just pop on the defense and then trying to get as much damage as I can. But you can see there just how much one not even charged R2 did to him. And for that spin attack, you'll know, if you've had experience fighting this boss, you'll notice that that spin attack is a lot of times is a one-shot, even with a massive health bar. I think the reason why that one-shots so many people is that they dodge while he's spinning, and when you're done dodging, you're in a bad spot. You don't dodge correctly, and then when he spins, he hits twice, but that second hit, I think, counts as counter damage. So you get one hit, and then that second hit is counter damage, and those combined together turns into a one-shot. So if I know he's going to hit me, I just don't even dodge, and then you'll just take that first hit, and it won't do as much damage because it's not counter damage. You're just getting hit. But Holy Moonlight Sword takes good care of him. I love this weapon. So yeah, avoid that first door, go to the second door, open it up, and the lever will be right across this bridge. Across the bridge down the stairs. I didn't need to do that there. For some reason when I went through this, I thought that it was the madman who's distracted by cocktails, and I just really don't want to deal with him, so I throw one out there and just ignore him. Okay, so this dungeon has 3 layers, and the third layer boss is the Watchdog. So the Watchdog will drop the waning shape when he's in the Loran Chalice. So if you're interested in using a Cursed Fire Abyssal Blood Gem, I would recommend, it depends on what gems you have, but I would probably go for 2 Cursed Cold Abyssal Radial Gems, and then pick up one of these for fire damage. So you'll use the weapon that has 2 radials and a waning shape. Or if you have the lost weapon, you can pick up a triangle cold gem. Strategies for the Watchdog. I mean, if you can use any weapon you want, like my character can, Whirligig Saw is probably the best. Saw Cleaver is a close second, maybe even better. Anything that's serrated is going to help you a lot. You'll be amazed at just how much how much better a serrated weapon is against these large beast enemies. But then again, if you're watching this video, you already know that. Strategy is still the same as, you know, any other watchdog. You just work from foot to foot, try and stagger him. When he staggers, go to the next foot, try and stagger him again, so you can just get him in this loop. And then if he does that puke attack there, that's really good because you can get in a lot of free hits. And that's it. So by the way, all the glyphs for these dungeons are going to be in the description, so look that up. Now you can see he did not drop the Abyssal there, but I do have some Abyssals, Cursed Fire Abyssal Wanings. So you can see there. So see, that one had the add fire attack 14.5. That one's pretty good. These are all boost rally potential. There's the one he dropped. So if you want the Cursed Arcane Abyssal Blood Gem, you go to his Gravestone Chalice Dungeons, and this gem is specifically dropped by Abritus, but it can also be dropped by the Celestial Emissary. I don't really know if there's a big difference. Well, okay, I don't know if there's a difference at all between Abritus and the Celestial Emissary and what type of gems they drop. I do know that they both drop arcane gems, and they only drop arcane gems. But I don't know, like, if there's a difference between the percentage amount and what secondary effects they come with. But the Cursed Arcane Abyssals that I tend to go for come from this dungeon. I want to say that this one is save edited, which means you're going to get a really good secondary stat. So again, that's attack beast up, attack kin up, attack up at full HP, add flat damage like 15 physical or 15 arcane. Really good gems. Here you can see I'm using Ludwig's Holy Blade, a great weapon, we all know this. I mean, look at that, 1R, that was an L2. But you can see just how much damage one L2 did. That was 1700 damage. This weapon does too much damage. As someone that likes to be over leveled, I will say that this weapon does too much damage. I think Ludwig's Holy Blade is like when I first saw it, I mean, I think I pretty much had the same response everyone else did. When I first saw it, I was like, wow, I want this weapon. And then you realize how much damage it does, and then you're like, I love this weapon. And then eventually you're just like, man, I want to use other weapons. And then you forget just how much damage it does. So I've kind of rediscovered just how much damage it does. I was like, I'm going to use Ludwig's for a while. The gems, by the way, I'm using on this are the 32.6 blunt gems. I think the 32.6 blunt gems are just the way that I like to use the weapon. Allows me to do a lot of damage just by, R1 spamming or doing the L2 attacks. You lose the visceral damage and the thrust damage and the straight sword damage, but I don't really miss it. If I'm going to use a fast weapon, I'm going to use the saw cleaver. Excuse me, I'm going to use the saw cleaver. So after you pull the second layer, forgot the name, lever, the second layer lever. The next boss will be the man-eater boar, I believe. Yes, and then obviously you can it's a beast, so you can distract it with cocktails. And I would recommend just getting into a chain backstab. He was giving me some, I think, wonky RG in this in this RNG in this chalice. I'm sorry, it's late when I'm recording this. I'm kind of tired. So I'd recommend just getting up behind him, throwing a cocktail, doing some backstabs. Just chain backstab him. He's really just a tank with how much HP he has. Not really the hardest boss in the world. This dungeon's not too bad. This dungeon's not too bad to run. I think the save edited dungeons, whoever made them, tried to make it as easy to run through as possible, which is always appreciated. I know at least some of them do. Like the ZKK dungeon, that you pick up the tempering gems, like the really good 27.2, the cursed heavy abyssals. That ZKK dungeon is really is a really good dungeon to run. Now I actually go the wrong way here. I realize my mistake when I get near the end of this hallway. I make a U-turn. I was like, huh. I did not go the right way. So yeah, that was the shortcut. I recognized my mistake and remembered I had to go the other way. Okay, so at layer 3 you have a Brightus. She drops the cursed Arcane Abyssal. It's not guaranteed, but she does drop it. The best ones come at 24.8%, and then the secondary stat, depending on what you're looking for, it could be the plus 15 flat Arcane. I think this one is save edited, so there's a chance that you'll get that secondary stat. But sometimes you'll get like the extra beast damage or extra kin damage or attack up at full HP, attack up near death, all that good stuff. You'll see here, I'll show you at the end. But yeah, pick up your best thrust damage weapon. I decided to use the church pick. Church pick's a very good weapon. Maybe play a little bit better than I am. Again, I'm playing pretty reckless. And there you go. Church pick 101, baby. So he did drop me the Arcane Abyssal. And it comes in a triangle shape, so again, I would choose the, so there you can see all the arcane ones I have. So you can see those abyssals are the 22.5. So those may have come from the Celestial Emissary. I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. But there you can see the type of stats that those arcane gems have, and you decide for yourself if you think it's worth it. But I think that on certain weapons they're well worth the effort. But what I was going to say is the setup that I would recommend is to have 2 Cursed Cold Abyssals of your choosing, and then you pop one of those triangles on there. So I would recommend the 2 radials and then the triangle. The 2 radial Cold Abyssals and then the 1 triangle Arcane Abyssal. And for the final dungeon, we return to Ailing Loran, And we're going to pick up the Cursed Bolt Abyssal. So you can pretty much predict what kind of gem this one's going to be. It's going to be the 24.8% bolt attack up. And then this one I'm positive is... sorry, I had a brain fart. Save edited. I'm positive this one's save edited because I've run this dungeon multiple times, and the secondary stat is always like plus 14, 14 and a half, 15 bolt damage, which is pretty good. I ran this dungeon once, and I got an out of shape triangle, and it was so good. This triangle was so good. I couldn't believe it. It's one of like, of all the gems I picked up, it might be my favorite. I don't think it is my favorite. But it's like my second favorite gem that I've ever picked up because it was so good. And the sad thing is I hardly ever use it because I use the physical damage weapons instead of the elemental ones. I just like using beast blood pellets. That's the primary reason. I think of the 3 dungeons, this one might be the easier of the 3. Not a whole lot of enemies in your way. The one with the fire abyssal is probably the most... probably has the most hassle to it. Beast possessed soul. So again, he's a beast enemy, so you throw a cocktail, get behind him, chain backstab him. If you can hit him in the back. The fight should be over fairly quickly. That is, of course, with really good gems and high scaling. But even still, I mean, if you got, even if you're at like the meta level, or maybe even a little bit less, if you have a plus 10 weapon with, you know, those cherry gems, that's where the bulk of your damage is going to come from. I do have meta level characters. Well, I have characters at blood level 150, which might be a little bit more than meta. I think meta is like 125. But I have level 150 characters with like 50 strength and 50 arcane. I primarily run that one. I like the strength arcane builds. My Ligarius wheel on that one build that I have is, the damage is pretty much comparable to the max blood level character. The reason I like running this max blood level character is really just 2 reasons why I like it. One, all my best gems are on this character, and I've spent a really long time trying to get those. And 2, I like being able to use the weapons. I like being able to use any weapon I want. Plus, I haven't finished those 150 characters. I have to go through all the dungeons again to get to the Depth 5 FRC Chalice dungeons. Those dungeons... as much as I like doing the dungeon runs, I really only like doing the FRC Depth 5 dungeons because that's where you get the best rewards. I don't really like having to go on an Easter egg hunt, trying to find every piece of tomb mold and red jelly to unlock the next one because I don't know where they're at and I have to look it up and I don't have the patience for it, really. Alright, so the second boss is the Keeper of the Old Lords. This is probably the boss I hate the most in the Chalice dungeons. I don't know if I've said that before, but in case I haven't, there it is. The reason and you can see the reason I hate this boss is he's just annoying. He hardly moves, and then when you get near him, he hits you with these I don't know. You fought the boss before. You know what I'm talking about. You know what it's like. So any weapon that is really fast and is easily, that can easily stagger him, he's very easily staggered. So if you have a fast weapon, you can just, R1 spam him, and then when you're done R1 spamming, immediately shoot and you can get a riposte. But if you don't want to use a fast weapon like Saw Cleaver or Rakuyo, then I have found that the Amygdalin Arm does a very good job. You do a charged R2, you stand there so you get that triple hit, and then pretty much immediately after the charged R2, he'll do an attack. So if you shoot immediately after the charged R2, you'll parry him, and then you can go in and get the riposte. That particular run wasn't as smooth as I'd like it, but it was good enough, I guess. Any excuse to use the Amygdalin Arm. And here you can see that I was trying to drink a blue elixir, but I got screwed up. And just decided to say screw it and run in there. You can see that this room here is pretty hectic. You got that hunter, a couple of those skinny little dudes with the knives, and then you got the guy shooting fireballs. But it's right there, so you just have to make a beeline for it. You should be fine. So the boss that drops the Cursed Bolt Abyssal Blood Gem is the Abhorrent Beast, but also the Loran Dark Beast. They both drop this gem. And I don't think that there's really a difference between the two, although I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. If you know the difference between that and also Abritus and the Celestial Emissary, if you know that difference, comment below, because I don't know. But this boss drops the Cursed Bolt Abyssal, the 24.8% bolt damage, and then that secondary stat, which can be pretty good, like attack beast up, attack in up, plus 15 bolt. And then the shape is waning because we're in the Loran Chalice. So what I recommended for the Fire Abyssal, I also recommend for the Bolt Abyssal. And as you can see there, I staggered him just in time. Because he was about to do an AoE there and probably not kill me, but why risk it? Just get your serrated weapon and just start one spam. That's all. That's the only combo you need, son. And there you go, Cursed Bolt Abyssal. So let me see what secondary stat he got. So there you can see some of the secondary stats I have. Attack beast up, attack kin up, add bolt 15. Just absolutely fantastic gems. And you can see here that I got quite a bit of them there. I haven't even put on my weapons yet. So, yep, that's all you need to know. Happy hunting.